Hey everyone, as always, I need a very short time to check this sound to see everything is working fine. Just give me a minute. There is a small delay between my transmission and the YouTube, so I need just a small time, small time just to wait to see if the sound is coming. Yes, I think it's just fine. Let me just adjust a little bit just make small adjustment. Just give me a minute. I forgot to activate the good microphone. I think now it's better. It's a noise cancellation. Yes. I think now it's go just fine. You can always let me know by I can see you in the corner here. So if you have any problem with the sound, chat, you can also let me know your question, let me know about technical difficulties. If you're not here well, if it's like any problem, I think we can start. First of all, I'm very glad to be here talking about a topic that is very dear to me. I'm engineering, which means that I did a considerable amount of statistics. On my course, I did the four course in statistics. During my Master of Science, I always did the stochastic mechanics, which is statistics, and to mention other courses as well, that several courses that wasn't directly statistics. Statistics is everywhere. I have the feeling that you cannot live without statistics. Some people believe that everyone should know. Uh, Recently, I saw a talk from the university where I did my PhD, in which the author was, the speaker was talking about the dangers of several people that they do not know statistics very well. And here I'm talking about professionals. I'm talking about the people that supposed to know a little bit about statistics, but they don't know. So statistics is a very important topic because it gives you the opportunity to see the world in a different way compared to the classical way of seeing. We are pretty bad at statistics. It was already known by Daniel Kahneman. Part of his work was to understand how bad we are at statistics. So my goal here is to give you a flavor about some this life may be repeated in the future. In the future, I may come back again, but talking about more about some specific topic. But today, I'd like to give you a small flavor about the dangers of not pay attention to this. By no means I'm saying that this life is complete. This topic here could be the space for a very interesting course, which I may give in the future, in which I can give you a little bit of idea about the dangers of statistics in where you should pay attention. So again, I'm not claiming that this live here is complete. Just say that I'm going to give you a very small flavor, a very small touch about what is live statistics. So if you're not familiar with statistics, statistics is a mathematical set of tools. They are mathematics. Generally, they are used to understand the unknown. For instance, if I want to know the vote preference of a population, which is quite common all over the world, I make a scientific research, which is a statistical inference. The statistical inference is when you try to understand what you cannot understand as a whole. If I have, for example, 10 people, I can easily ask them, these 10 people, their opinion. So I will have the population opinion. So there is no need of statistics. So statistics is used when you cannot access the whole. So 10 people is very easy to access. Maybe 100 people is very easy to access. 1,000 people is very easy to access. But imagine, for example, the case of Brazil, in which you have more than 100 million people. 100 million people. It's a lot of people. So what they do generally in this kind of statistical poll political poll, they do a kind of inference sample. It's called sampling. Sample. Sample is when you take a small number of the population, it's a very big population, and you try to understand the whole based on small. For people that they are not familiar with statistics, that may sound crazy. Indeed, it is crazy when you think about it, but it was already proved by mathematicians all over the century, very skilled mathematician, that if you make the sample in a proper way, you can easily understand the whole. You do not need to interview everyone. I know that statistics can be very confusing for people that are not from the statistics world. It's confusing even for me. I was when I did statistics, I barely passed statistics because it's crazy, but it's very important. It's a very nice topic. I do enjoy statistics. I like it, but I know that it's a counterintuitive. It's not like human. Human was not designed to think like a statistician. So whenever have difficulties to understand statistics, do not take it personally. It's like it's our brain works. Our brain is limited. Our brain does not understand statistics in the way it's supposed to tell. As some people like to say, we are storytellers. We tell story. If I tell you a story about something, you are going to understand pretty well. But if I try to tell you numbers, it gets a bit harder for you to understand. That's why it's very easy to use to lie, because if people have difficulty understanding statistics, you can easily use like numbers, the average, without telling the specific context or without telling the people how limited is that number. So it's very easy if someone is not expert, someone is not even a little. Statistics is a very specific topic. Generally, they are for mathematicians, they are for engineering. Some people from biology they do biostatistics. So they are very specific. So it's not every professional they know how to think. For one example, whenever I'm talking to people, my brain is already thinking in a statistical way because I did several statistics. So some people like to reply very angry, like you are generalizing very fast. You are like saying things that's not true. I like to joke. When I give my opinion, please consider a p-value of 0.05. Consider a p-value of 5%. A p-value is a statistical number that people use to get a very good sample. It's a kind of stand-up number. So the p-value has to be more than 5%. I'm not going to get into technical detail why p-value has to be smaller than 5%, but it's a very good number generally. If you go to a publication, the p-value generally has to do with this kind of stuff. It's a very interesting topic, how to lie statistics. I'm not going to get all into detail about that, but I'm going to give you a very small flavor that you should pay attention to when someone is trying to talk to you about statistics, and you should be cautioned. Should keep your eyes open because people may use statistics against you. So that's why you should always pay attention. You should always keep your eyes sharp. My tip for you, which we are going to repeat during the live, is that try to talk to someone that really understand about the topic. Try to talk to someone that really understand about statistics. Do not take number like out of code. Do not take number out like just numbers. Like numbers are just numbers. If you don't have a context, if you don't have an expertise, if you do not have a kind of really knowledge, numbers are just numbers. Be careful when someone try to pull some number on you. They try to convince you of the topic without necessarily giving you the context. So let me prepare here. So we are going to start forward. Thanks for your attention. Thanks to be here. I'm very glad that you are here. So our topic today is how to lie statistics. So do you know how to lie statistics? If you know how to lie, you know how to avoid. I mean, the book itself, which I base myself in, is a book that says more or less the same topic. If you know how to lie, you know how to avoid to be deceived by statistical tricks, by statistical tricks and so on. So That is the big idea. So you can find me online. I have been very active on social media. I'm not a very active person, but since I have this kind of project, I decided to have all these accounts. So I have the main account Twitter, I have the Instagram, I have Facebook, I have LinkedIn, I have TikTok, which is new. Recently I started with TikTok. The Coop, which is an Indian social network, which has been became like famous. I decided to give a try, to give a try. And you can use as well Twitter. Sorry, you can YouTube. This live is transmitted in YouTube. I have started as well to make a huge amount of short on Twitter. Shorts are very short video. They are at most 1 minute. So most likely you are going to see short on this live. So please follow me on social media of your preference. So this is the book. I totally recommend. I didn't read the whole book, but yes, I did read the book. I really enjoy. The book is kind of old. I'm not sure the author is still alive, but I think he's died. Not sure, but he had a considerable amount of book. All of them have the same idea: how to help people to understand mathematics, to be more critical. By the way, I have a project in Portuguese, which is Science for No Scientists, which is a project that maybe I'm going to publish a version of this book, but in Portuguese, which is my one way to talk about the same topic. I think I do enjoy this image because you can easily hide. You can easily hide information just by you can easily hide information just by using numbers, using statistics, and say that's correct, that is whatever. So according to Daniel Kahneman is an author. He's a psychologist. He got the Nobel Prize. According to Daniel Kahneman, we are pretty bad at statistics. He showed that in the experiment. As he talked in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is a bestseller, he knows some kind of difficulty that he had with statistics, but he worked with that for years. So he thought maybe this kind of difficulty that I have in statistics is a kind of general difficulty. It's not specific for me. Everyone had the same difficulty. So he decided to design a set of very small experiments, several experiments. So he showed and he learned, as he claimed in the book, he was learning on the way, that everyone has difficulty with statistics, specifically with the sample size. Like in the beginning of the book, he's talking about that he asked himself, would someone guess very well the size of a sample just by intuition? The answer was no. We are pretty bad at statistics. You cannot guess. So that's the reason why I believe it's also important to go to the book, that you go to formal books, that you consult all the manual. So Daniel Kahneman is a very good reference to show you how bad you are at statistics, and especially because he was experienced. He got the Nobel Prize. I think he was behind this kind of work. Statistical thinking will one day be as necessary for efficient citizenship as the ability to read and to write. I think the same, but I think it will be a very big challenge, because it's not very easy to talk numbers to people. People generally hate numbers. So if people hate numbers, it will be very hard for us to convince people to take statistics seriously. And to understand even the basics. For example, the mean value. The mean value is very common to be used in discussion. But people generally do not know how the mean numbers they are limited. For example, if I take the mean value of a sample, it's very sensitive to the extreme. So if I tell you that the mean salary, the average salary of a company is $10,000, I have to see a considerable information. I have to see if the sample was well done. I have to see if the sample was representative, and even everything is okay, I still have to remember that the average is sensitive to to extreme. So if I have just one number that is very high, that you put the sample very high. So that's why people has other way to measure as well. They have the median, they have, I mean, they have a considerable amount of different way of measuring this kind of distribution, because not enough for you to have the average value. You should have as well how these numbers are distributed all over the average value. So statistics can be used by laymen, by people that are not expert, but they should use with caution, because people kill statistician. They try to understand every possible ways to make this kind of understand using very different. It's a very rich topic. What's the best indicator, statistical indicator for a specific sample? There is a sample, and I want to learn. I want to learn from this sample. I want to learn. I want to take out for the statistical inference. There's a field called statistical inference. I did a course on my master, my first master, which I didn't finish. I decided to change the master, but my first master I did a course called statistical inference, and the goal was to understand sample. So if you have a sample, there are several ways that you can use statistics to look at the sample. One way is the average value. That's the simplest way to see a sample is by the average value, but it's a very tricky one, because you need to pay attention to what you are trying to see and what it can show you. Think like this: if you have a light, so your statistical indicator is a light. So you try to see something with this light. This light can be very specific, it can be very broad, but depending how you see it, it will give you more and less information. Some indicators are very simple, but they're not very good, such as the average value. Other indicators can be very complex, such as it calculate the statistical distribution of your sample, and you're trying to make a kind of principal value analysis. Maybe you're trying to do a kind of trying to find the specific statistic that you invented yourself. So that is the sample is the same, but how you look at the sample can be different, depending how the statistical indicator that's used. So how people are with statistics? I mean, there are several ways. Here I'm not talking about all of them, but in general, they say something that is statistically true, that you cannot deny. You can say that the average value of a sample is 4. It's true. Then they omit a set of facts. They omit, like, for example, that there is another number that say otherwise. So they avoid this kind of conflict between, okay, this is the number, but what are the competitor? What are the other indicators saying? When you learn how to use a statistical formula on a course like a bachelor, you learn as well how to balance different indicators. Each indicator is going to tell us something different. So you need to make interpretation, not just based on one indicator, but based on several indicators. So people are unable to say anything because they cannot understand why this number is 4. They cannot understand the context. They cannot understand the limitation of this kind of statistical indicator that people are using. So the indicator they are using has a limitation that, for example, in statistics, it's very common to use what you call the white noise distribution. The white noise distribution is that you should make sure that your distribution is a normal distribution. A normal distribution is like this. You have it's like this. It's a very standard distribution. The good news is that most of the time, there's a theorem called the big number theorem, say that most of the distribution, most of the statistical distribution, if you make it big enough, it will converge to the normal distribution. So in the most of the case, you can assume that your distribution is a white noise. But there are specific cases that you cannot do it. So you should ask yourself, it's called parametric and no parametric statistics. You should be correct that your statistic is parametric, which is a very simple one. But there are cases which you cannot make this kind of assumption. One interesting case happened in Brazil. It happened as well in the United States. During the government of Donald Trump, they failed miserably to understand to understand the vote for Donald Trump. It was the same case of Bolsonaro in Brazil. The first statistical, the first political polling, they failed to predict the first turn, the first round result, but they were able to do it much better the second one because they changed the methodology. For example, in the book Everybody Lies, which is a very nice book about data science, they show that for the who can be a very good indicator of to guess the vote of someone. So that is in the case of Brazil, they used a methodology that was working the best. But when you have a different political situation, it was unable to predict precisely. It was because they have what they call the error margin. The error margin in general is how you accept the error, but it was complete out of the error. If you ever seen the statistical plot, they have this kind of error margin, then you have some number out. But the case that it was precisely the number out that they appear in the real world. Statistics is not about the prediction in the sense of I know what's correct. It's about the guessing most of the time. So statistics is not to be always right, to be most of the time right. So if I tell you that my sample has a precision of for example, 95% with a significance, if a significant value of, for example, alpha is equal to 5%, that's not precisely what's going to happen. That's going to happen most of the time. There's a huge amount of stuff that you learn in statistics in a form course to not be tricked by the numbers. So the point that when people start to use statistics by someone that's not an expert, and it was not even close to be an expert, that person had never did a course in statistics. There is a very nice joke that there is a humoristic. There is a very funny series, a very old series called Chaves, El Chavo, which is a Mexican, but it was very famous in Brazil. We can call a comedy show, reality show. I don't know what you can call it in English, but there is an episode in which someone gives a statistic to Chaves, and he says, every second someone dies. Every second someone dies on the street because of the statistics. Then the Chaves says like this bus should stop going out. Like this bus supposed to stop going out because that's how it's working in our brain. When I tell you that every second someone dies because of a specific accident, it doesn't mean that the same person is dying all the time. It means that if you take a sample of people, on this sample, there's a probability that each one will be struck by this kind of accident. So that statistics can be very tricky if you do not know how to understand it. So the basic of statistics is very important. I think I'm not sure how is in your country, but for example, I don't remember, but I don't think that you have this statistics on high school. It's very important to have this kind of training, very basic training in statistics. So how people arrive statistics? They use numbers associated with statistics to omit other factors. So they say a number. The politician, they love to do that. I have seen several debates in Brazil. I think it's like all over the world. I guess there's a lot of the world the same pattern. They tell you a number, but they omit another. For example, in Brazil, Bolsonaro was trying to convince his voter that the destruction of Amazon, the fire on Amazon was not that high, but he said just one number. But he forgot to compare. He tried to make the opposite side. The opposite side burn the Amazon much more than he did. So he forgot to mention that the other side got the Amazon with a burning rate much higher than he left. Okay, it was a very high number when he left, but before he arrived, it was much higher. So, politicians like to use statistics in a very simplistic, in a very limited way. That's a kind of manipulation. It's a way to use statistical manipulation. There's a very nice book called "The Weapon of Math Destruction" by Cat O'Neill. And she She talks about, for example, she says something very nice because her case was not specific statistics. Her case was algorithm. How algorithm is used uh, to make what she called math of mass destruction. So she explained that someone tried the crash of that state, for example, was algorithm badly used. So people use algorithm to lie, to say like, believe me, trust me, this is mathematics. So if that mathematics, you should trust blindly. Never trust mathematics blindly. No one should trust mathematics blindly. Mathematics has its limitation. We all know that as where when you are an expert, you are a minimal expert, you know the limitation of mathematics, statistics in general. So always when you see a number, especially by say a politician, make sure to double check the number. Make sure to see if the number is properly. I know that's very hard sometimes, but make sure that the number is properly reported and try to get another opinion about the number. The same number can be interpreted by different people in different way. For example, in Brazil recently, the unemployment rate decreased. So someone may say, that's a very awesome number. It's mean that the government is working. But keep attention, the number of job that have in Brazil now is a very poor condition job. So the unemployment rate went down, but the quality of the job is very low. It's an informal job. It's a job that the people does not have their basic right ensured by the employee. So the employer. So the employee is in a very bad condition. So you should always take a number and compare with other kind of indicator. Should never take just statistics should not be used to convince people. It should be used to learn about reality. So if I tell you that the average value of something is a specific value, that's going to be used to lie, in the sense that I'm going to convince someone with that number. No, it's supposed to be used for to understand what's going on. Statistics is a way to understand reality. It's not a way to predict. It's not a way to. It's not a way to try to make a confirmation bias. It's just a way to see how things going. Statistics was created for understanding. It was created for following a kind of a specific event. It's not created to lie or to do all the stuff that people are using. So manipulation statistics is much dangerous sometimes than fake news. One example, one time, a very time ago, I saw a kind of, I don't remember where I saw it, but it was a book that said that women, they insult much more than men, like verbally, like they say bad word verbally. They are much more aggressively verbally than men. But you should remember that when a man make an insult, the act is much more brutal because the violence in men is much higher. For example, there's another one that I like a lot. Women tend to take criticism much easier than men. It's a very good news. However, they tend to take very bad criticism. Men, they tend to shut down criticism very fast compared to women. But they leave out a very good information because when you give a feedback, criticism, that's a very good information. So men tend to just shut down in the beginning. Women tend to listen more, but they tend to listen very bad criticism. So you should learn each other in this sense. They should have a very gender rich team because you have different tenants. So people, they use number associated statistics without providing proper expertise. I think that whenever you see a number, whenever you see a statistic, make sure that someone that has expertise to read the number is close to you. The number should not be left out cold. They should be set in a context. They should be put in a specific context. They should be put in a specific place. They should not. Numbers should never leave. You should never leave a number like just going floating around. People should be number should be used together with expertise. If you have expertise in economy, you're going to see a number specific way. If you have an expertise in environment protection, you see another way. So that's important. Statistics should be interpreted by different people. not by just one people, especially that person doesn't have any expertise. So never see statistical output. Always look for information, theory to back it up. Statistics is not a theory itself. It's just a way to monitor a specific stuff. It's just a way to understand reality. It's supposed to be seen as a final story. Statistics can be interpreted in very, very different ways. So the unemployment rate is, as one example, the unemployment rate is 50% lower. But you forget to say that previously there was a massive job loss. So there is a very massive job loss, and you have the unemployment rate that increased by 50%. It's meaningless because it's just a corrective factor. Like in on the pandemic, the government that lost in Brazil now, thanks God, he lost. He always put the number out that the economy was growing, but the economy was growing because it lost a lot during the pandemic. It was not a gain by itself. It was just a correction term. The economy was very down during the pandemic. So when the economy was recovering, this recovery should not be interpreted promptly. Should not interpret just if a single number should see the whole story of Brazil. So it was very down, it was recovering. So should not see this number should compare with the past. So compare with the past, Brazil was pretty bad in the economy. So there is that's from the book, House Life Statistics. His father-in-law said things like, there is a mighty lot of crime around here. There is a mighty lot of crime. This is the kind of very dangerous language that we use a lot. This kind of generalization that we like to use very often. This kind of very dangerous in the generalistic general language. So said my father-in-law. A little while after moving to to California, he was talking about how his father wasn't able to understand the crime rate based on his situation. He was comparing to another situation that was like a very bad comparison. So availability risk bias, because most of the time when we try to understand the statistics, that's based on the work of Daniel Kahneman, we have pretty bad at statistics because you have a considerable amount of bias in your brain. One of them is the availability bias. Just give one example. So it's a mental shortcut that relies on immediate example. So the example to have now, that's the case of the Brazil when the economy was going up. You may fall prey and think that was a good news, but should compare as well the past, not just now. So a mental shortcut that relies on immediate information, that information to have now. That comes from a given person's mind when evaluating a specific topic. A concept. So this availability effect is a very dangerous effect. It's a fact that makes you think that what's happening now does not have a history, does not have information from the past. So that's the reason why I should not use statistics without considering the history, without considering the past, without consider how the context, where it's placed, the past, the history, graph, and so on. So my father, in this case specific of his father is most likely falling a prey of the availability and risk effect. He was just what happened close to him. You will not see what's happening all over the country. So my father-in-law conclusion was statistical in an informal way. So the specific informal statistic. It was based on a sample, a remarkable biased one, which was a biased one because it was close to me, was by my side. So people generally tend to interpret the word based on a very small sample, which is a sample close to me. For example, in the place where I vote, it was very clear to me that everyone would vote to the winner candidate, the one that won. Everyone close to me was like inclined to him. But the final result all over the country was very close. It was like 1%. It's like 1%, a small number that he would lose. So, for us to have an idea, I did a kind of after the vote finished, I went to the vote chamber in the website, and I saw the result in my chamber. My candidate would have won by a very big number. he would have won by 70%. 70%. In the final result, in the whole in the current result, it was like almost 50-50. So as you can see, if I base my opinion of the winner on my chamber, on my very small village, I would say that my candidate would win without many problems. But that was not what happened. The final result was very close, was very tight, was like almost 50% the victory of the two candidates. So in this specific case, it was a bias. Bias sample is when the sample is like going in a specific direction. It's only telling the story. A bias sample is very dangerous. For example, nowadays we have a very nice discussion on how to train artificial intelligence. So one of the biggest problems of artificial intelligence that people are using biased data set, such as there was several algorithms in United States which they try to experiment with algorithm to be a judge. So they saw that most of the data set they were using, they were like white and men, which means that women and black people, they are not well represented in the data set. So if you train an algorithm with that, the algorithm is going to be prejudiced. You're going to have a prejudice. And that really happened right now. So bias means that the data set is not fair. It's like a coin that there is a specific side that is going to appear much more than it's supposed to appear. When you learn artificial intelligence, neural network, you learn as well to make sure not to have a biased data set. The representativeness of all the samples is going to be equal. So it was assumed that by his father-in-law that the newspaper given the news itself given to crime rate report is a measure of crime rate. It's not true. The news in general, they're going to report very exceptional event. For example, in the case of the war of Ukraine, when the war of Ukraine against Ukraine started, in Brazil, it was every day the same stuff. But the war is still going on. But no one talks about it anymore because it's not like news. So the news is not a crime rate. Crime rate should be measured by a very good and very powerful statistical methodology. But newspaper is not. Newspaper is based on what's new. Whenever you see something on the news, it means that it's a very rare event. Such as whenever you have a plane crash, it will go on news because it's a very rare event. Whenever you see a kind of theories, it goes to television because it's a very rare event. So it does not base yourself on television. Television are very rare events. It's a news. It's what's going on. It's a WhatsApp. But crime rate should be measured by very careful, well-planned statistical tricks, statistical abilities, statistical methods. So averaging into relationships and trends and graphs are not always what they seem. So that's what we attach because it can be very easy. When it was my undergraduation, one thing that I remember that my supervisor, she told me that be careful because be careful how you show the graph on a publication because the way you show the graph, you may lie to somebody else. You should show the graph in a neutral way, in a way that does not deceive people. But if you have bad intention, you can use this kind of trick precisely to lie or precisely to deceive someone. Especially in a discussion or debate, I'm usually trying to convince you to vote on my candidate. I may easily show just the result that they are interested to you. So, as I said, we are not going to discuss all the book. I may come back in the future again, but there is one chapter about the biased sample. Biased sample is when the data is already telling the story. So if I have a data set, in this data set, for example, I wanna create an artificial intelligence to measure the probability that someone is a criminal. But when I train artificial intelligence, I use just a data set that most of the criminals are black people. So of course, artificial intelligence is going to learn that black people is criminal because the sample is not well distributed, the sample is not well represented. So that's of course that's going to happen. So the average, that's a very nice example, which I liked a lot to give on the book. The example is teaching you how to be critical about when you give statistics. You should be when I give a number, a statistic, you should be very critical. You should try to understand how the sample was collected, how the sample was, the way the sample was collected is going to give a bad result. So he gave an example in which a newspaper, it was the New York Sun, which I guess is a newspaper in the United States, said that people that this class specific for Yale, the Yale University, this class specific, they make a huge amount of number every year. But as the author was saying, he gave several kind of example in which the sample could be biased. For example, people lie. In the book, Everybody Lies, from the engineer from Google, he's explaining how people generally does not lie to Google, but they lie to a sample, to a survey. So the author says, for example, someone may not respond the survey because he's ashamed of his salary, because he got a degree from a very famous and renowned university as a university, but he wasn't able to get a very good job, a well-paid job. So he may choose not to respond. He may choose to lie. He may be afraid of the tax company, as they also explained. It may happen that some people are very far away, as they also say in the book. People that are very rich, they are very easy to be found. People that are poor, they just disappear in the system. So they also give several examples. Let me give one example of mine as well. Recently, I was participating. I'm still participating for a sample in Brazil, in which the university, which is a very famous university, they want to follow your eating habits, your diet habit. So every 3 months, you should answer a kind of a form. So this form, they ask you your eating pattern. The idea should follow up the Brazilian eating habit, how badly or how good they have. It's a research about obesity, about eating habit. So I think I found a flaw as one example on this form. A friend of mine, she told me she wasn't able to fulfill the form. So after talking to her, I saw that she has difficulty with with computers. I mean, a considerable amount of people has difficulty with computer. So the form is electronic form, which means that if someone has difficulty, like my mother, like a lot of people that I know, they have difficulty with computer, they'll be unable to fulfill the form. So the form is, even though this research is very well intentioned, and I support the research, this research is going to get just people that has ability to computer. So the sample not be totally fair in Brazil. So the sample is measured, even though the sample think they are measuring the Brazilian eating habit, they are measuring the eating habit of the Brazilians that are able to understand computer very well. That's a very tricky way that they understand that. So, in my opinion, the sample for this university is biased. Why they are biased? Because just people that are able to use a computer very well, there's a huge amount of people that they cannot use very well, is able to fulfill the form, is able to participate from this eating habit. So I don't think that this research in Brazil it will represent the real eating habit of the Brazilian. They represent the eating habit of the Brazilian that they are able, has a minimum education, which my mother does not have, to fulfill a form. It may sound like crazy, but I had experience one time in which I tried to make a form in my village, and no one was replying. And somebody told me later I didn't know how to reply. It was a Google form, very easy to reply, but even though people still have difficulty to reply. So another way as well, it could be dangerous. that people, that's what they say. Even when they say they can lie, they can and the people lie a lot. Everybody lies a very good. So the take home message that you ask me, what should I, you ask me, what should I take home from this life? Do not read numbers blindly. Try to criticize. Try to be skeptical. Look for more evidence and different statistical indicators. Do not use just one. And always put the number under context. Which context is number are being interpreted? And what are the expertise of the person, of the group that trying to interpret them? All of this is important for you to have a very fair account of them. So consider experts support you. For example, there is a journal I like to follow. They have 2 experts every edition. So try to take a number of statistical number, try to put under context, try to interpret, not just based on the number, just based on your own interpretation. Try to understand how the statistics was collected, how the statistics work, the limitation of the statistics, and especially try to get an expert to help you to understand the number. So one example is what Daniel Kahneman called casual thinking and statistical thinking. So casual thinking is when you try to create a story. It's a very common way of a human to think. We are not a statistical thinking by nature. We are casual in story thinking, casual in story thinkers. You tell a story. The casual thinker is a story, is a storytelling. You tell a story about when you see a sequence of numbers, a sequence of events, you try to tell a story. It's a very human tendency, very big tendency. So casual thinking make it feel like it's explained. So that feeling that Daniel Kahneman called the illusion of validity. The illusion of validity is the illusion that you have to understand something just because you are able to explain it. It's a very human-like feeling that's very dangerous when you try to understand statistics. So be critical of any statistics someone gives you. Consider the past. Make sure you know where that comes from, such as the sample. The sample is the easiest way for you to understand statistics, to see how it was collected. How it was collected. Would it represent the whole population? Put it under context, as specific as possible. So it might try to understand it as a economical perspective. It might try to understand it as an environment specific context. It might try to understand it as a very poor guy that may be affected by this number. Pay attention. There is a research that showed that your ideology, your way of thinking may interfere heavily in how you interpret statistics. Such as if you are seeing statistics about gun control, gun regulation, if you are against, you are in favor, it will show that affect your brain, that affect how you interpret. So your own position, your own way, your own expectation may interfere considerably how you interpret the statistics. So otherwise, you should always pay attention. So guys, I think that's all. As always, I'm always glad to be here. So I wish you a very good study. I wish you a very good learning process. I'm always here. In the beginning, I gave you a considerable amount of way to get in touch with me. So I hope to see you around in the upcoming lives. So if you have any question, you can let me know. But I guess if you don't have, I'm going to go here. So just show you how. So I guess see you in that kind of live.